So last week I talked about the new album from the band Stained and how amazing it is. In fact, it's still spinning in my car right now. Previously, I've spoken about the return of nu metal, not only from some of the older bands, and obviously Linkin Park releasing new material this year that was very successful, but newer bands and artists that have stepped into the arena. In a previous episode, I spoke about an artist, she goes by Cinnamon Babe. Some of her music is actually pretty cool. I've said before that you don't always have to agree with all the themes, but the music itself is fun to listen to, and it's nice to see that genre making the comeback one way or the other with whatever form of angst you want to sing about. There's another artist that I've come to really like. She first debuted for me on SiriusXM Octane, which is a fantastic channel to find new artists in rock and metal. I listen to it when I'm not listening to Stained, apparently. I listen to it all the time in my car. Don't tell anyone, but I've been kind of abusing the promotional pricing for like 3 years for SiriusXM Octane. But I love the channel. The programming is fantastic. Jose Mangan, he's also known as Metal Ambassador Mangan. I believe he is the one of the major producers on the channel, and he's always introducing really great new bands, whether it's through their accelerator, Octane Accelerator, or through their test drive where they introduce 3 new songs, and it really gets some really cool bands and artists out in front of an audience that maybe they wouldn't have had before if they hadn't been introduced there. So I believe it was a few weeks ago I heard Amira Elfeky. She may listen to this episode because I'm going to send it to her, but I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. I hope I got it right. I apologize. Either way, she has a very Deftones-like sound, obviously with a female vocalist. It's definitely different than Deftones, but it's again, anything coming from the nu metal-ish genre, I really, really like. And in this case, there's just a really great subdued aggression that I believe her music has. And there's been a couple songs she's released so far. The one got released on SiriusXM Octane, and I've heard it play a couple times now. It's really cool because when you go to her YouTube channel, there's not a ton of views on the song or on the channel in general, but then you see this artist is now getting play on a major, network and getting people to listen to her. And I believe that her following on Instagram has grown as well. And what's really cool, she's actually very responsive. She'll respond to comments. She will respond or like messages she receives. She'll feature when people post about her on Instagram or create reels on Instagram. She'll feature those in her own story. So this is a really great thing to do. As a new artist, I recommend this to anyone because what it does is it draws people in and kind of helps you build a kind of a core following. And those are the people that are going to not only be there for you to support your endeavors and listen to your music, show up to your shows, but they're also going to talk about you with their friends. They're going to send your music to their friends. They're going to post about it on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, or in this case, talk about it in their little podcast on their little YouTube channel. So, Amira Elfeky, keep it up. Again, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Keep it up. The music is fantastic. You have a great vibe. Keep being responsive to your audience, to your fans. That connection was very big, I think, for bands like, obviously my favorite is Linkin Park. You saw it a ton in their early shows where they would get down to the crowd after shows and shake hands and high five and sign things, just connect with people. And they continued that even as they scaled as a band to be, the world's biggest rock band, essentially. They continued that in every way they possibly could. They were just very approachable for their audience. So to any new artist, that is going to be key for you in today's world, especially with the extreme subdivisions in genres and media and how people connect to things. Build your following and stay connected to them. And of course, make awesome music. So, I'm not a huge fan of the MCU. Definitely not these days, but I did used to like Marvel films a long time ago, especially in probably the early 2000s when everything was kind of separate, when Daredevil was its own thing, Elektra was its own thing, and until they paired those up because that made sense, when the Hulk was its own thing, when X-Men was its own thing, Spider-Man was its own thing. All of those series, if you go back and watch them, in my opinion, they were all better when they did their own thing, when they acted in a bubble, essentially. X-Men had such a huge cast and universe, it definitely rivaled what was built later with the Avengers and MCU. And because it told its story within its own universe, it stayed confined to a certain style, a certain way of telling a story. There were rules that were built around a type of cast and character. So I liked those days much better when it came to Marvel. The early stuff like Iron Man and Iron Man 2 were absolutely fantastic, but as time went on, it felt like things just got more and more watered down. Characters kind of lost their place. Like they weren't really the center of their own story, and everything was just kind of like, let's build the biggest popcorn cinema franchise we can, which of course they were successful. Got to a point where every single Marvel film that came out was basically $1 billion movie. But then Endgame happened, and that should have been it. That should have been the Endgame. I've talked about this before in commentary videos on my channel, but essentially what Marvel should have done, just like I feel like Star Wars should have done with the end of the Skywalker saga, which I very much enjoyed. But with Marvel, what they should have done when you reach the end game, like you can't really top that in many ways. It's kind of, the ultimate superhero story for Marvel had come to a conclusion. And what they should have done is left it be for maybe 10 years. I mean, I know that's a long time to not try and, print cash money with every single movie. But the problem is you start walking on your own grave at that point. It's kind of the same way I feel about Halo. I've talked about that before, but this is a Marvel thing. Essentially, they should have let it rest. Give it time, move on, let the cast enjoy their time away, let people begin to remember the franchise fondly for what it once was. And let it become a cultural moment that just kind of stands for a while. It defines a generation of superhero films or whatever. And then in about 10 years or whatever, you come back fresh. New cast, new way of introducing everybody and telling the whole stories. It's just kind of dragging everything out. You want to continue that same magic, but you already did it. You built to your finale. You blew your load and it's done. You got to let it rest. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. And yes, for a while, they've been able to essentially continue printing some money. They did the follow-up to Black Panther. There was a couple other films that came out that, they've made some good money, but you've started to see it. There has been some fatigue. Some of these box office totals have started to drop, and honestly, they don't have nothing has the same cultural impact it did during that era as well. Well, now we have the Marvels. And I'm enjoying this greatly, but the Marvels comes out, this is from Variety, misfires with 47 million, lowest MCU opening weekend of all time. And not only do I celebrate this, I laugh at it, because first of all, nobody ever thought this movie was going to be anything. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's a good review. I'm just going to click over to it real quick. There's a good review here from The Telegraph, surprisingly, writer Robbie Collin. But basically, his review is pretty harsh on the movie. The superhero franchise sinks to a new low, and he talks about the inability, not just because of the strike or anything like that. That really doesn't affect whether people want to go see a movie. Oh, so-and-so showed up for an opening day. Nobody cares about that, really. But there's that franchise fatigue. There's the story being over. All your favorite heroes are not involved really in anything now, nor are the actors you actually care about. And he even brings up, hey, Brie Larson, she became instantly bogged down in a partly self-inflicted culture war squall over identity politics, and just many other reasons why not only did this film, like, nobody cared, but now it bombed. Like, not even the hardcore Marvel fan base showed up to support this thing. That should have got to 100 million or so on its opening weekend. It was projected at a low range to hit 65, 70 million, and it got like almost half that. So I think it's fantastic, honestly. I think we need to see more of this when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and kind of just show them that this isn't the way. This is just going to be a personal gripe about the Pokemon TCG, of which I'm actually a really big fan of. I still collect, definitely not as hardcore as I did 2 or 3 years ago, but essentially what I did was I decided to specialize in certain things. I have always and will continue to collect Pikachu in general, and then as an aside to that, obviously Raichu and Pichu whenever something interesting comes up, but I have an entire folder of Pikachu cards coming from all the way back at the start, in Japanese ones, promo cards, whatever, all the way till now. I still seek out Pikachu when there's one in a set, or there's a certain Pikachu chase card or a promo or whatever, right? My other major collection it's going to be a weird way of doing it, I guess, but Japanese holos from the original, I think it was like 4 sets from the 90s or so. There was like the original base set, the 2 rocket sets, and like the 2 jungle fossil or something like that. I decided I wanted to collect all the Japanese holos from that as much as possible. And then once I got past the holos, I might try to fill in with all the regular cards in some way, because I feel like the holos are like the priority and it's more interesting to chase after those. Like I said, I've slowed on the collecting, but I do really I like those. Those mean something to me. And then in general, I have some random other cards I collect. I like Vikavolt, which is like a newer Pokemon technically, but I actually really like it. Gengar, Mew, Vileplume. Like, there's just a few of these random other Pokemon that I do really like, and I will collect their special cards or a holo or a secret rare or something like that. One of the art cards. And that actually brings me to my current collecting. Like, I will still go buy packs of cards randomly, especially when a new set comes out. I just recently had it was like a 6-pack booster bundle from GameStop. They apparently released Paradox Rift as a new set. I didn't actually know this came out, but I got that plus a couple extra packs, and I opened them. And out of 7 packs that I opened, I believe I pulled 2 or 3 of the like character art cards. They're kind of like a secret rare. They're not necessarily one of the top Pokemon, but they do these really beautiful, amazing artworks that, they're like the full card is this piece of art. It's really cool. But it's nice to find those. However, I've had this issue since Scarlet and Violet came out. Not the price, not the gray border. I think the gray border is fantastic. I love it matching up better with the Japanese cards. They always looked much better than that yellow border. But my problem is rarity. Like, there's something special about chasing after certain cards or certain types of cards when you know they're hard to find. But when you open every single pack and there is now guaranteed 2 holo cards, like a reverse holo and holo, and it feels like the rarity on these other special cards has decreased, as in that they're not as rare. Because in general, besides just those 7 packs, in general for the last year or whatever that I've opened cards, I feel like I pull special cards like too much. Now I understand there's luck and you can get streaky. I've been doing this, not my first time. But it's just a little disappointing. I know they're probably doing this because they want to have people feel like they're getting more for their money and get excited about it and stuff, feel included. But I'm sorry, like, there's something about not having every pack or every other pack have something crazy cool in it, right? Like, there's got to be some randomness there. There's got to be some, dang, I didn't get what I wanted, I'm going to chase after it again. it is a trading card game. It's a game, right? So everything you buy technically has inherent value just for playing the game. And then there is the art. You can collect whatever you like. But I just feel like when it comes to like full art trainer cards and secret rares and golden cards and all this stuff, they need to be harder to find. Like if everything is easy to find, or if you come across it too often, it loses that specialness, and I kind of miss that. I feel like it's something that they have like watered down a little too much. Thanks again for checking out Weekly Takes. If you enjoyed this minicast, please subscribe to the channel for more. Check out the playlist for past episodes. Leave a like, and if you have anything to say, any feedback, definitely leave a comment, and we'll see you next week.